And so the word ableism, I feel, is such a hot topic. And as speech pathologists, we have to tread very lightly around this, because what happens is, jumping down to the bottom of this slide, is whether from childhood, accident, or illness in adulthood, or aging, we learn about disability mostly from non-disabled parents and or non-disabled doctors, therapists, and teachers. Most people out here are walking around without disabilities, okay? And that's the truth. Now, neurodiversity. There's a lot more of that we're starting to kind of recognize, right? But it's still a relatively invisible disabilities, right? We often kind of walk through life assuming this person's not disabled and this person, but really, if we open up our minds, we should be promoting the fact that there's nothing wrong with somebody with a disability. As SLPs, we have that ability to impact not only our clients and our students, but those of us who are big into in-classroom collaborative practice in education, or if we're engaging families, right? This is where we start to promote inclusion, right? And how can AAC help combat that ableism? Lots of ways, I think. Okay, because at the end of the day, I want the kiddo who I'm working with to be successful. And sometimes it takes convincing those around them to be that support as well. Okay, and so the definition of ableism up at the top is it's social habits, practices, regulations, laws, and institutions that operate under the assumption that disabled people are inherently less capable overall, less valuable in society, and or should have less personal autonomy than is ordinarily granted to people of the same age. And so when I'm going into classrooms and I'm working with students, I'm including everybody. And I'm treating everybody like they know what's going on and that we are all a part of our community. Okay? And as a person whose ADHD is not so visible to those that aren't as aware, I understand what it's like to be minimized and criticized, because sometimes I just blurt out random things, or I haven't processed a question entirely before I blurt out an answer. And that's okay, teaching that acceptance, because people with different disabilities are just as capable of being successful as adults, and really defining what success is a critical piece of that. And so it's highlighted here that people with IDD have the same right to self-determination as all people and are entitled to the freedom, authority, and supports to exercise control over their lives. People with IDD must understand that they can direct and influence circumstances that are important to them. Okay, and so this is super important for those of us that are working with families to develop plans, IEPs, treatment plans, plans of care, right? What does that person want for themselves? What does success look like to them? Because what success looks like to me may not necessarily be what success looks like to my 16-year-old son, right? And that's acceptance on my part as his parent to say, I respect what you want, okay? And so family members, friends, and other allies, us, right? We play a critical role in promoting that self-determination, okay? Promoting that they as an individual have a right to voice what they want to work on in therapy, if they even want to work on it in therapy, okay? And then we provide the supports and we work collaboratively to achieve the individual's goals. And so as we think about a lot of the kind of people we have historically provided high-tech AAC systems to, and low-tech, mid-tech, is those with severe disabilities. The position statement from the National Joint Committee for the Communication Needs of Persons with Severe Disabilities is that Communication services and supports should be evaluated, planned, and provided by an interdisciplinary team with expertise in communication and language form, content, and function, as well as in augmentative and alternative communication. Okay, and so we really have to start thinking about who that person's support team is, and that kind of takes us back to that interprofessional collaboration, right? We have other professionals starting on the bottom, right? Behavior, right? ABA has really jumped in because now that AAC is one of their evidence-based forms of practice, now everybody's recommending it. And so we really have to get on board, okay, with that, because everybody else is too. And so why? Why should you do that? Because we have to be knowledgeable assessors and therapists regardless, right? Because we never know what's going to come at us. Unless you're in a highly, highly specialized private practice, which more power to you if you are, right? Like, I'm envious. We always have to be thinking about, what am I going to do when I have somebody that's going to utilize AAC? Well, what can I do? As an SLP, that even if I have one or two kiddos using a system, I'm going to be an advocate for the importance of the SLP in the AAC evaluation and implementation process, because I guarantee you if you only have one or two, there will be more. And so as we think about the kinds of students and kids that we can service with AAC, the possibilities are endless. And then we have to do our due diligence to choose a system that our clients and our students will be successful with, and we shouldn't be afraid to change it up. If we find that a system isn't working, well, then let's change it. And then we have to become more confident in our assessments, right? Download the AAC Genie app and start practicing. Just see what it's about. You can sometimes get licenses to certain apps and practice on them. Just practice. Get in there and play with it. Make it fun. And then we can accept all forms of communication as valid, even if it's not a high-tech system everyone wants the kid to use. You saw what Amy did, where she's like, it's going to be mounted for him to respond in school. Everything else, he can ignore it. And then here's a biggie. Use core words. Core words make up to 60 to 80% of the vocabulary that we use as communicators. That's a lot. If we start focusing just on nouns, we're creating what we may refer to as a nouner, right? We need to be focusing our energy on teaching the important words, the core words. Okay, so that is a huge thing that we can start even if a person's not using a high-tech system.